Sale, Ryan Walters here in the K-League United bunker, along with Paul Neat and a very unkitted Matthew Binns.
Why are you playing that, Matthew?
No, I didn't get the message. Nobody told me it was uniforms.
Is this a professional
Uniforms?
setting?
Kits.
Yeah, I mean,
Strips.
there's a reason that we don't have the legs showing today. One of us, I'm not saying who, but one of us went full kit today.
Guess and see who it is.
Yeah. That's
Prize is just the fact that you won.
the prize you can claim if you come to Seoul Elan versus Suwon FC tonight. But we'll talk about that in the K2 show. So anyway, welcome. We are here with good and not great news. Korea is out of the World Cup. That's why we're here. We're wrapping that up. But things ended on a high.
They did. I think the group stage kind of went how we expected, but not in the manner in which we expected.
Yeah, I think 3 points, and in case you've been perhaps living under a rock, Korea lost 2 games and won against some small team from
I think
Europe.
they might have won some sort of tournament a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. But they beat Germany.
Yeah, they did.
If you're watching this, you know that. So we're here to wrap all of that up and talk about it a little bit. But first, our Matthew Binns here has already talked about it a little bit because he was on this guy's show yesterday.
Yeah, well, Thursday actually. But yeah, so I was invited on. Paul, you've been on as well.
I have,
it's KBS World Radio. It's the Korea 24 show with Henry Shin here, being in picture. If you look for the show, if you go to their website, look for the show on the 28th of June, you can listen back to it and hear the thoughts I gave, and also Yonhap News, Yoo Ji-ho was also on there giving his thoughts about Korea's performances in the group, and Korea is what we're going to do today, really talk about where do Korea go from here. Yeah,
which we definitely will be getting into a lot. It's been a little bit of a busy month for us. This is what we're wrapping up today. To give you a rundown of what we're doing today, we are going to be talking about the World Cup, obviously. We're going to do a position-by-position breakdown where we'll each be giving a grade of the position, who we thought was the best player there, maybe some weaknesses, maybe who shouldn't have played that much in one of those positions. We'll be doing that, and then afterwards we'll be talking about who we think had the best World Cup, who we think had the worst World Cup. That could be a very brief conversation for those two. Cho Hyun-woo. And then we'll talk about our MVP, and of course, because we always want to focus on K-League, and K-League is back, we're going to talk about how this World Cup is going to affect the K-League. So, as we're going here, as always, feel free to get in your comments, and we'll get to those as Matthew deems necessary, because he's the one in charge of that. But without any further ado, let's just jump right into it, and we're going to start with the position that, it's the only one that you really could start with. Let's talk about this guy.
Oh, yes.
Can I just say that I was adamant on our pre-World Cup show that this man wasn't going to be the first choice for Korea. I was convinced that it was going to be Kim Sung-gi because he's been the number one for a number of years.
And has been playing well in J-League.
He's been doing, he's 6 clean sheets, I think, in 16 appearances for Vissel Kobe. And I think it was a surprise for all of us, but a pleasant one. To see this man line up in the first game. And in all of the games, and he was superb, wasn't he?
Yeah, Cho Hyun-woo, I think, was the surprise, honestly, and I don't think it's stretching it, of the tournament. He was the goalkeeper for so many group stage team sheets that we saw from the BBC and everywhere else throughout the world, and rightly so. And he was our Golden Glove winner last year in 2017. We've been keeping an eye on him, but I don't think we expected this.
Well, no, nobody expected this. He came in to play for Sweden because of his height, really, and he stayed in the net because he performed so well. In Korea, we were very well aware of his abilities. He was K-League 2 goalkeeper of the year 2 years in a row before he got promoted with Daegu, and then won K-League 1's goalkeeper of the year.
Which playing for a team that's just been promoted is an incredible achievement.
Right.
Yeah. It makes me wonder how bad Daegu's situation would be without him in the sticks.
Yeah. Our Daegu columnist Jung Mi-yeol kind of alludes to that. Yeah. That without him they wouldn't have won promotion. Without him they wouldn't have stayed up in their first season back in the K2. And just to go back to what you said about the BBC who had commented, Rio Ferdinand, who was played in front of some of the world's best goalkeepers, was waxing lyrical about how well he played in the Germany game in particular.
It's not just match of the day on BBC as well. ESPN, Bleacher Report, all these renowned football outlets are all just praising him, goalkeeper of the group stages, and it may even be the tournament come the end of it.
It'll be tough to tell with just 3 games, but
even though he will be already at home probably watching the rest of the tournament, he may still end up getting the goalkeeper of the tournament.
Well, I mean, the traditional greats in the position, Neuer obviously had a little bit of a gaffe against Korea. That was fun.
Slightly caught out of position there.
Slightly out of his net. And, De Gea hasn't really covered himself in glory. The man who Choi Hyun-woo is nicknamed after a little bit with De Gea for Daegu and then De Gea. So, I mean, I think in the end we will be looking back and talking about him. I think one important thing to get onto before we give our grade for him, which I think is kind of obvious, but before we do give our grade, he will not be transferring to Europe anytime soon as things stand now, because he has already signed up for military duty with Sangju Sangmu, something he did long before the World Cup, long before he was in the national team picture. Might be regretting that a little bit about now.
I don't know, because I mean, a few months ago, obviously, you can only have 3 wild cards in the Asian Games to get. If Korea gets gold in the Asian Games, they get military exemption.
Right.
The wild cards coming into this tournament were Son Heung-min, Kwon Chang-hun, and one other. But Kwon Chang-hun is also not going to be going to the Asian Games because he's injured. So we've only got Son Heung-min as the definite wild card. There's 2 slots there. He may get taken to the Asian Games, and
I should hope so.
And I think after his performances, they probably feel like that they might have to take him, because he deserves to have the chance to win that military exemption. And also just to reward him by being able to win a medal for his country, because he performed so well during those 3 games that he's earned the right to play for a gold medal.
Just tremendous all around. And I think to give it a grade, to put a cap on him as the goalkeeper, Paul.
9.
Oh. Grade.
He's American.
A+.
I'll go for an A.
A+. I just beyond exceptional. He was so good. I thought simply brilliant.
Yeah. And moving on to the defenders, this guy had quite the tournament, kinda. So the defenders came. There was a little bit of fire for them, but overall, I thought they played well. Matt, what were your thoughts?
I thought they played all right as well. I mean, one defender got a lot of stick, but I think the one positive thing Shin got right in all of his tactics was he played a back 4 in all 3 games, which we were frightened he might not follow through with at one point. They looked like they knew what they were doing. They looked well drilled, and let's be honest, in a group that was considered a group of death, Korea only conceded 3 goals. 2 of them were penalties. Maybe that's on the defender's part, but still.
But 1 goal from open play against Sweden, Mexico,
and
Germany.
They were organised. They were well drilled, and I think for all the criticisms of in the midfield and attack, which we may get to, Korea's defence held strong for the majority of this tournament.
They did indeed,
defensively, they were set up very well, and I think, which is great because they were very tight. But on one hand, when it became to the point where you have to move forward and try and play out from the back or counter attack, passing was a bit wayward, as we saw with Jang Hyun-soo, and even
saw a lot with Jang Hyun-soo.
And even Lee-yong in the first game, his crossing wasn't great, but then it wasn't great on either side either. So
in the first game, but I thought against Germany,
he was. I thought Lee-yong did all right against. His crossing was poor. I don't think his crossing was that poor, but I think the tactic in general was never going to work. You were never going to score a goal against Sweden with a header, but we're going to get to that later, I suppose. But
sure,
perhaps definitely. We can say that. I think what I would like to have seen is...
I was going to say, who would you have wanted to see more?
Hong Chul and Yoon Young-sun, just because they came in the Germany game, and it's easy with hindsight going, why weren't they playing from the start?
Well, but I think the thing with Yoon Young-sun is that he was just... Yoon Young-sun, he was so no nonsense. He just did his job.
Yeah.
And that was lacking in those first couple of games.
Yeah, I think it was I understand why he probably didn't start against Sweden, because perhaps there would have been uproar. I think...
But I don't know. I think it's because
pre-game against Germany, I questioned it.
Yeah.
He went for experience, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he only had 6 caps before the World Cup. So
Jang
Hyun-soo's got over 50. So I can see why. Well, whether or not they were deserved is another matter. But
So
he
who would
also went for experience. Yeah, no, I agree with Matthew.
Yeah.
I like Kim Min-woo, a left back, but having seen again, you can't judge it off one performance, but that Germany game, Hong Chol was superb. And if you speak to our Suwon Bruins columnist Scott Whitelock, he will tell you that even though those two left wing backs are both really good, Hong Chol is the one. So
yeah, especially with Kim Jin-soo not being there, I think he could have been a little bit more. I think we would all agree that Jang Hyun-soo is who we would hope to not have seen as much.
It's a pity.
It is
because unfortunately he's had such ridiculous criticism leveled at him that I want everybody to do well, but
sure.
The criticism that he's received and the attacks on his personal accounts on Twitter, the petition with the Blue House to get him exiled from the country, I think all of this was ridiculous and idiotic from sections of support who just
most of the petitions to the Blue House right now are absurd.
Yeah, that is true.
There's a USA Today article that I'm not even happy I mentioned out loud, but it's just some absurdness that you can check out on Twitter with another petition that's...
Anyway, but Jang Hyun-soo, unfortunately, he was the weakest link in that defence, and there's no denying that. He should not have been in that position for 2 games, let alone...
I think, definitely not in there for all of them, especially when he bumped up to the midfield, just not where he needed to be. I think we would agree that the hero here,
Kim
Young-gwan, was one of the better players
he was
overall, and even if he wasn't getting that goal, and how well he took it, I think the focus was so much on was it the right call of being offside or not. I think that we're forgetting he was calm in front of the net and just roofed it right over one of the best keepers. It just stared him in the eyes and said, "I'm better than you right now." I mean, I think that was amazing. For a defender to be up there and do that.
Stick it in the roof of the net from 2 yards out.
Yeah,
is great. And now there's talk of him going to somewhere in Europe.
Yeah,
he's been at Guangzhou for a while. He's not played much because of the change of the rules with the CSL.
Yeah.
I think it is time for him to move on, and this World Cup will have done him the world of good in attracting interest. So he was good in all 3 games.
Yeah. And I'll start with you again for the grades. What would you give the defenders overall?
Defenders overall, I would have to give them a... we're not numbers again, are we? A C+.
You could have just done the C+.
Yeah, because, defensively, in terms of preventing goals going in, they did that apart from the individual error, which you can't really account for. In transition, not so good.
Yeah. Well, we'll come to that again in a second as well. Matt?
I'm going to go for B because I don't quite agree there. I think the transition thing, yes, they weren't that great, but I think that's the manager's decision, not the defence. I think the defence did what they were ordered to do, and I think they carried it out mostly to good standards, so I'm going to say B.
I'm even one up from that. I gave them a B+, just because I think when you only concede 3 goals against these teams and 2 of them are from the spot, which required VAR, the right call, mind you, but required VAR for those PKs, they did well at the back. I think transitionally, that's why it's not higher.
But playing devil's advocate here, they only conceded that many goals, but it wasn't just because of the defence, it's because of the guy behind them. How many saves did he make?
Right. Who, for the sake of this, I'm saying I'll include in the defence.
Matt Hummels could have had a hat-trick of headers in the Germany game, where he was left unmarked. But all right, fair enough. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit too negative in my grading, but in terms of them stopping what was going in behind them, they did themselves proud.
They did, a solid B performance, if you will.
C+/B.
Yeah. Also, if you want to give your grades for these as we're going along here, we'd love to know what you think of the keepers and/or midfielders so far.
If you agree or
disagree. Or keepers or defenders, I should say, because now we're moving on to the midfield.
Please, right.
Where all Sunderland fans are happy to see this guy around today. In case you didn't know, Ki Sung-young has signed for Newcastle. I believe there's some sort of...
Apparently he played in a final for Sunderland once, and I can't really remember it.
He played in Sunderland's first cup final for 20 years in the League Cup against some small team from Manchester, and now he's signed for Newcastle, and I'm bitterly disappointed in him. It's partly because I've ordered the clear away shirt that arguably hasn't come yet. Clear out the World Cup when the away shirt isn't here. With him on the back, now I've got to sell it. So Anyway, sorry.
So in the future, when you see me wearing the lovely white away shirt from this year, you'll know whose it was first. But as the captain and one of my picks for the stronger players in the midfield, Ki Sung-young had a pretty good tournament, I think, shielding the back line. But midfielders overall, Matt, I'm going to start with you on this one because I think there were some Jeonbuk players that did pretty well.
There was one Jeonbuk player in particular who did very well. I'm going to be obviously talking about EJ Sung here, one we had picked to do wonders at this tournament. I don't think...
Didn't like the world on fire.
He didn't get... he didn't like the world on fire. But what he did well. He did it to a good enough standard, but he didn't light up the world.
In the second half of the Germany game, when the game opened up, we saw more of the real EJ Song.
Yeah, and surprisingly it was out on the right wing.
I was going to say
something I've said that is not his strongest position, but clearly for the national team he's better out there than he is.
When we get into positional things, we'll talk about where maybe he could have been or where some other players could have, or maybe some could not have been.
But I think overall the midfield, it did okay. It was bypassed a lot in the first game, so I can't really judge it for the Sweden game because Korea bypassed it a lot with crosses up to the front with long balls and wing backs moving up to cross into the front. So, but against Mexico and Germany, where they were on the counter quickly, I think they helped with that transition, helped with the movement, and I think they did okay.
Is there anyone that you would have wanted to see more of, Paul?
I would have wanted to see Goyo Han play in that Mexico game. In the end, it was Ju Se-jong that played, which I like Ju Se-jong. He did well, but playing in a midfield four alongside this man, I think they're both too similar. I know that Ki will drop back and shield the back four, which if you're going to play both Ki and Ju Se-jong, it should be in a 5 really. Then Ki can sit back and it allows Ju Se-jong and somebody else then to sit in front of them. But then, Ju Se-jong, he came in and did well. But Goyo Han, I think because it was talked in the media in the run-up to the Mexico game that he was going to be the one to chase things down, be the bulldog to hassle the Mexican midfield.
Which he's great at.
Which he's very good at. And the good thing about Goyo Han is he can play anywhere. He can play anywhere and he'll do a good job. For this season alone, for FC Seoul and for Korea, he's played at right back, centre midfield, left wing, right wing.
And he's excelled at most of them.
And he fits in there seamlessly. I'm happy that he got a run out in the Germany game. And he was on the field when the goals went in. And,
that's a good way to do it. Right?
I saw his post on Instagram and he's obviously quite proud of himself for that. And so he should be. I think it would have been for him like a what if. Maybe if I'd have played the Mexico game, he might have felt a bit more like he contributed a little bit more, and he has those qualities to be able to do so.
I think the what if for me, and again I still only have one foot on this hype train, but Lee Sung-woo, why did he not start that last game? With the lack of pace that this team had moving forward, with how slow they were in transition, and since we're on the midfielders and we were talking about the transitional play with the defenders, this midfield, whoa, were they slow? Just too slow on the break. And Lee Sung-woo, he's at least going to be able to go at him with pace. He's still a really raw talent, and
well, I think that's why they put Moonslam in there instead.
Which leads into who I really wish we had not seen as much of. What was he doing getting so many minutes on this team while Goyo Han sits on the bench, while Lee Sung-woo sits on the bench? Moon Sun-min was nothing short of a liability at best, and at worst killed so many counterattacks single-handedly.
I mean, he's good off the ball. And he's got the energy.
Yeah.
And when, like in the Germany game, when you had to move quickly, he did contribute in that sense, but he just took far too many touches. He managed to get himself cut in front of goal, and he's got options. He's got Son to his left, he's got Lee Son to the right, and then he takes that one extra touch, and the move's gone.
I think it was about his 32nd touch.
Must have been
in the box at least.
That's something that he needs to cut out of his game.
And just, there were a lot of times that on the counter, if he would have just gone, and again, I think Lee Sung-woo would have done that. He would have just gone.
Yeah, probably.
He just ground the whole thing to a halt when he had acres of space in front of him, and just his first touch is still a liability. His crossing is awful. I just have no idea why he was in there. Sorry for the rant, Incheon fans. I love Incheon, but I have no idea why this man was on the team, why he made the cut to go to Russia.
Well, he wouldn't have if Kwon Chang-hyun and Lee Gun-ho were...
Sure.
Either of those were fit.
Yeah.
They were missing wingers, really, and that's why
I mean, this is where the Yum Ki-hoon injury really, really hurts.
Yum Ki-hoon's the one,
that magical left foot out there instead. No, he wouldn't have had the pace, but at least he wouldn't be such a liability.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway.
I thought, yeah, he, as you said, I don't want to go over it too much, but he touched the ball too many times and stuff. But I thought, he's the best top goal scorer in the K League. He's got assists. He's playing for a team at the bottom.
Top Korean goal scorer. Sorry,
but he deserved to be in the 28-man squad. He deserved to be in the 23. I think if there was going to be no court, if they weren't going to use the reserve list, then it was better. He was okay to go.
I think because because we expected him to be an impact sub, but he started
right.
Maybe that. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's.
And,
you can go that.
And we'll come back to impact subs when we move on to forwards, which we're going to do now because we're a little over.
What about the grades?
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to move on to that after the grades. And this time I'll start with you, Matt. What grade are you giving the midfielders overall?
I'll give it a C.
I'm
going down, descending slowly.
I'll give it a C minus. But it's not their fault though. One point I was going to make is that there was too much chopping and changing with the system and the formation.
That's fair.
So all those 3 games that they played, it was a different midfield every time.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you get a continuity and a rhythm and an understanding with people if the person to your left, to your right is different every time?
Or if the captain of your team and the linchpin for the midfield goes out injured for the last game.
True. One thing I want to add finally about Key is I think he suffers from a similar kind of expectancy that Son does. So those two must feel the weight of the whole team on their shoulders, and I think that kind of inhibits him a little bit, and he has to be more defensive than perhaps he might want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So C minus for me.
I think if there was something between a C and a C minus, that's about where I am. I gave him a C overall, but I just think that transitionally they just were so slow, and I think that the build-up play for Korea has been there so well at times, but I mean I think a lot of it does have to do with the changing of systems, but I mean just go. If your whole thing is to try to hit on the counterattack, then hit on the counterattack, move the ball. I just thought they
worked in the Germany game in the second half when it was 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, exactly. So and we'll talk about the tactics and everything else in a minute after we move on to the forwards, which is a very short list of players. But
I was thinking if we have a picture of Kim Jin-up there.
Well, let's just launch right into that then. For the forwards, I think, and I'll start with it because we've got Sonny up there. I think him playing as a forward in this tournament, although he did have one game out at the wing, which he kind of disappeared in because it was so much easier for them to mark him out. I think he's got to be the forward of the tournament. There weren't many to choose from. There weren't a ton of highlights, but he had that just lovely, lovely screamer against Mexico, and as the only, quote unquote, real goal from open play. I mean, I know that there was the lovely one against Germany. But he was the only real threat in my mind. Did you guys have somebody else?
I was largely unimpressed with Hwang Hee-chan. I know he's young. He's only 22.
Yeah,
I think perhaps the occasion got to him and nerves got the better of him because I just wasn't impressed.
We've seen better from him.
Yes, we have.
We know he has more in his locker.
Yeah. So in that aspect, I was a bit disappointed, and obviously we know how good Son Heung-min is. Mm-hmm. So I was happy to see him get a goal in the game that Korea won.
Yeah,
because
he deserved it.
He scored against Mexico, as you just said, which was possibly up there with one of the goals of the tournament. And then in 2014 he scored, but they didn't win the game. So I was happy to see him at least get on the score sheet in a game that Korea won
and actually be able to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matthew, I kind of.
Is there someone
cut you off there?
Is there someone that you would have either wanted to see more or less of up top?
I think we saw who we needed to see. We didn't. Yeah. I think Son Heung-min was the right option for up front, and even though they lined up in 4-4-2 on paper, he was usually just the sole striker with an attacking midfielder in Lee Jae-sung in the Mexico game and Kuja Chol in the Germany game, and I think that was the best way forward, really, having an actual midfielder, a central attacking midfielder, go as an assist him up front. Hwang Hee-chan, he showed flashes of promise, but he just lacked that that decision making in the final third. I felt a bit sorry for Kim Seok. He obviously didn't have the best game, but to be honest, again, I blame that on the tactics. I don't blame some of these players as much as individuals and press are blaming them. I think Kim Shin-wook was played stupidly against a height defence, and it was never going to work.
He shouldn't have started, and also I think he would have been a better impact sub, but he certainly shouldn't have started against Sweden, a team more than any of them in the group that was set up to defend against height.
He was asked to do a near impossible job, to be honest. I think he was never going to really upset Sweden in the air. The only thing I would say in criticism of Son, but I mean, it's really hard to criticise him. I just think he took on a bit too much at times. Like sometimes
he does that, doesn't he?
He does that. That is Son.
What choice does he have? Right. He's got Moon Sun Min out on one wing.
Well, it's no matter who he plays with over the past two years, he just has to try and take it all on himself.
He does do it a little too much sometimes.
But he was better against Germany, though, in that respect. Yeah. There was more trust there amongst his teammates, I think.
He has a lot of commitment to his team, and I think that showed. And I think he is a possible heir to the captain's armband after Key. If Key,
and he wore it against Germany.
There's been rumours today that Key may consider from international retirement either after this tournament or in the near future. And I think he's the natural heir. He wore it against Germany, led well, and the scenes of him crying after the Mexico game with Moon Jae-in just kind of underlined how much this means to him. And I commend him fully for that.
I think agreed on Sonny. I think to go back to Kim Shin-wook for a minute, because we talk about him a lot, and we'll come to this with K-League. I think that, and again, this comes back to how he was used. I think he was not necessarily set up to fail, but he wasn't put in his best position, and that affected him for the rest of the tournament. I think he could have been a much better...
He never played the rest of the tournament,
right? Because he could have been a late substitution to offer some chaos, but because of how things went, because of how the media reacted and everything else, he was just never going to be an option after that first game, and I think that was a really poor usage of someone that could have been an asset, if for nothing else, for some chaos, because late in the game, when you're going for that goal, as Korea was against Mexico, as they were in all three games, but he had to come out against Sweden, obviously. But I think, especially against Mexico, he could have just offered something different late in the game, but because of how poorly he was used and how poorly he performed, to be clear, how poorly he performed in that first game, you're not going to put him in. But I think if he would have had that much time spread throughout the first two games, or maybe spread throughout the three games, it would have been a better performance.
Oh yeah, he was the worst of the three strikers. I just think the manager's tactics, for not just for him but for also some other players, there were individual errors. But I think there was times in the manager's tactics threw players under the bus. Really, they were asked to do stuff that was just not going to be possible. And the Sweden game was that in a nutshell.
Well, we're gonna get on to Shin Tae-yong here really quickly, but before we do, forwards, what grade did you give these guys?
It's difficult because
they only scored.
They only scored three, but at the same time, and only two, and both Son.
Yeah.
Let's say
got a few more than Germany did.
Hey, let's say
in the tournament.
Yeah,
and I want to say B minus. I'm between a B and a C, so I'm on a wave of positivity with this team. B minus.
All right.
Can you say yours while I think a minute? Because I agree with Matthew in the sense that you can't knock him, but then again, you had players like Hwang Hee-chan, who was disappointing. Kim Shin-wook wasn't utilised in the right way, and you can't just say, well, for the whole attack they got this grade, because really the grade's going to him, isn't it?
Well, I gave my grade to the attack overall, and I gave a D.
All right,
because I think Son had a great tournament, but I think when you're looking at what the forward group, what they were able to do, wasn't a lot. They didn't really put a lot of pressure on opposing defenses. I mean, how many clear-cut chances do we really remember from each game?
That's true.
They weren't a threat. Son is a world-class player, and he showed that. He scored a worldie on his own, and and again, he gets that goal against Germany on a credit to him, a great run to run almost the full length of the field and get on the end of it and get in. But how well did the attack do in any of these other games? They just were so disappointing.
See, I would include Lee Sung-woo in the attack, really. I know you
Sure.
winger attack, but he wasn't really allowed to really show what he could do.
Right.
Didn't get as many minutes as we probably has hoped. So yeah, I'd again a C- or a D, and then even the C- will be
D plus then.
The C- or a D will be generous, I think. Let's just
do it. All right, fine.
Yeah, D.
All right.
Oh, now you've made me look like a right idiot. But
Look
anyway,
at
okay.
this guy, Mr. Positivity over here.
Well, I think this is what we're going to be coming on to, but yes.
Well, I think now, so that was position by position, and again, if you have any reactions to that, if you have grades that you wanted to give each position, by all means get those in. We had a few comments come in. Was there anything questions-wise that we need to get to
there was
before we move
one,
on?
but I'll leave it to the end. But
right.
I'll leave it for Paul to field. We'll get to that later.
Oh, well, all right.
I'll check what it was actually first.
So before we get into the tactical side of things, just real quick, and I feel like Cho Hyun-woo is the very obvious answer here. And you know what? We've talked about him a lot. He's clearly shown brightest. I think he's the obvious answer for who had the best World Cup outside of Cho Hyun-woo.
Okay, yeah, let's call it the...
Because, I mean, I think the hands-down answer is Cho Hyun-woo, who was outstanding.
Yeah, so my MVP, Cho Hyun-woo, I'm taking it the same for you as
well.
There's no...
Unanimously, I think, anybody that watched Korea or any of their games...
If anybody is saying it's somebody else, I just feel that you're probably you're trying to be different. Which,
if anybody says someone other than Cho Hyun-woo was the MVP of this team, you're wrong.
But so,
sorry.
The MVP that's not Chon Hyun-woo award...
Yeah, the MVP that's not Cho Hyun-woo. For me, I think I took it a bit literally of who had the best cup. Not necessarily, and this is fudging it a bit because Cho Hyun-woo was such the obvious answer. I think Yoon Young-sun had one game, all right? So, I mean, I know, but I think if you're talking about somebody that raised their stock, which is how I was looking at this answer, Cho Hyun-woo did that more than anyone else. Yep. But I think Yoon had a tremendous game. He's in the second division here, was largely unknown by most folks covering the team even. I think he was the player that really bumped up his stock.
Well, he's been at Sangju for 2 years, hasn't he? And he came back to Songnam. But he's been at Songnam since 2010.
Yep.
He was in the ACL final. On the bench, albeit on the bench.
He was there.
But when he won the ACL, he won the FA Cup with Songnam as well.
Right.
So he has been part of Songnam when they were in the slightly more successful years.
And also part of Shin Tae-yong's team.
Yeah, he played with Shin Tae-yong. You know, Shin Tae-yong won that ACL title with Songnam in 2010 whilst he was in the squad. So, yeah, all right. He's come back from Sangju, gone to Songnam, back there again, and not rebuilding his career. But sometimes that can happen when you go to Asan, the military service. You have to kind of start from scratch again. And you're right, the performance that he put in against Germany will have done him the world of good.
Yeah. Who Matt, you got one.
Yeah, Kim Yong-kwan. I think you were going to say... I thought I'd get in there first.
I was also trying to go under that one.
No, I just think he had a really good tournament.
He did.
But it's more in terms of, well, again, the raising the stock. He's already got his transfer lined up. He's going to get out, possibly to Europe. But the way the Chinese league has changed lately with the foreign quota, Asian players in China are not getting games anymore, and there was a lot of criticism of players like Kim Yong-kwan, Guangzhou Evergrande, and I think he's raised his profile because when there's like Kim Min-jae coming in, there was Hong Jong-ho's gone to Jeonbuk to try and get back into this team until he got injured.
Right.
There was a lot of people saying that these the Chinese league defenders are going to be slowly phased out of this national team, and he's managed with one World Cup. He's only got 6-7 appearances for Guangzhou, mainly in the Champions League, where there is an Asian quota. He's going to actually now get out of the Chinese league into hopefully a European league, and fair play to him. I think and he looked really good. Also, when he was wearing the Korean shirt, I thought he did really well,
scoring goals.
Apparently, the agent that he's working with now has moved Korean players over to Europe before, so I think we will expect to see him with the scarf pick of somebody in Europe at some point.
I think staying in China would be a mistake for him at this point.
I think he stayed there far as soon as they changed that rule. He should have left then.
I think Yeah, no, he should have. Then
he's
on a high salary, I think. At Guangzhou, which is
but you have to think. I know that we look at it from a football perspective, and of course it's easy to say, well, then just go and play football. But when the money is that good, then it's human nature to sort of say, well,
especially if his stock's on the slide, how long can he keep earning that if his reputation?
Well, that's a very good point. But now I think. Perhaps if he's been sat on the bench, sat in the stands until he has to play in the ACL, how good will he have been feeling about football? Mm-hmm. This World Cup might have reignited his enthusiasm, rekindled his career again, kickstarted his career off again, and hopefully, like I said, I was going to say the same thing as you. He was my Korean player of the tournament. It's easy to say Son because he is the world class player in the squad, but he was brilliant against most of the teams that they played against. He was putting in good blocks, good tackles. His passing is usually generally good. And then that goal against Germany was like a striker's goal. He was so calm and composed, and it was pleasing to see because he's been frozen out there in the Chinese Super League. So
hopefully this moves him out. So that's who we've got on the positive side of things. On the negative side of things, who do you think had the worst World Cup? And we can look at this again maybe as like a stock down situation if you want. I clearly have an answer, but I'll start.
I think we're all going to say the same thing.
I don't think he.
Wait,
I've already guessed who is
on 3, 2, 1.
Moon
Sun Min.
Yeah, you see. I knew he was going to go for that. I think you see the deranged anger in his eyes.
For me, it's Jang Hyun-soo.
It was bad. It was bad.
I mean, he hasn't impressed me in the qualifying campaign either, to be perfectly honest with you. I think a lack of centre-backs has limited other players coming in. Mm-hmm. Kim Min-jae, as you know, finally broke into the Korean national team towards the end of the qualifying campaign and would have gone to the World Cup if he wasn't injured.
Well, but how much different would this whole tournament have been if Korea just had a fully healthy squad?
Well, exactly. I mean, you look at like the players that were... I mean, we were asked this question before the World Cup. Can we use the injuries as an excuse? No. But they would have definitely helped.
Yes. But these were still winnable games. But we'll get into that.
Jang Hyun-soo, just you can't dive in with your hand in the air like that. That's the basics. I know when you're trying to slide tackle, you can't control all your limbs at once, but he's experienced enough. Mm-hmm. He's played over 50 times for Korea.
It's the World Cup.
Yeah. You should know you can't dive in like this. Yeah. It was foolish. And then his passing was awful as well in the Sweden game. It's harsh to pinpoint him as saying that he was the reason why, but his passing was poor, and it led to Park Joo-ho's injury. Mm-hmm. He had to stretch to keep the ball in, did his hamstring. And then it was a short pass that forced Kim Min-woo to dive in. Should he have dove in? Possibly not. But he was just doing what he felt he had to do. It was two mistakes there. Two wrongs don't make a right. But Jang Hyun-soo, he's playing in the J League, and if he ever had any ambitions of playing in Europe, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, it doesn't.
I think just to build on that as well, because we were talking about the bigger picture with Kim Yong-gwan. If we're talking about the bigger picture with Jang Hyun-soo as well, he's not only tarnished his reputation with some bad performances, but as we alluded to earlier, the angry netizens and all that have also they've exacerbated how bad it was. Yes, it wasn't a good performance. That's why we're picking him as the most disappointing player. But he's not going to. His stock will have fallen greatly from this tournament, and probably more than it should do. More than 3 games should really let you. Hopefully. I'm not too familiar with Tokyo FC, but I think hopefully you'll continue in the J League for a bit longer. But.
Yeah, I don't think he'll want to be coming back to Korean shows.
Yeah, that's in my meaning. I think his stock will have dropped in Korea because of this.
Yeah. I do wonder though that because Oh Ban-suk hasn't played much for Korea, that he wasn't worth the risk. I know he's experienced at club level for J2. Yeah. He's played in the ACL for this season and last season, so he's played in continental tournaments before, but because of that lack of experience, maybe that's why he was persisted with.
But yeah, I don't know why he was in there for all of them. But I feel like I've gone on a little bit at length for Moon Sun Min about why I thought he was just disappointing. I feel like a parent that's not upset. I'm just disappointed, but I am upset as well about it. To be honest, I just don't know what he has done to start over the other players that were on the bench so much. And again, we've talked about this. We talked about this in the build-up. We talked about it a lot of times during our pre-match shows. This fan base needed something, and that's where, hopefully this Germany win can do some of that. But whether the hype's worthy or not, and personally I'm still not fully in the camp that it is, Lee Sung-woo has people excited right now. Why isn't he getting in there over Moon Sun-min?
Whilst I agree with you, I do think that he only started one game for Hellas Verona last year.
Yeah.
So, and Moon Sun-min has been playing regularly for Incheon and scoring.
Yeah.
Alright, he can be frustrating to watch, so I do understand the logic why he was picked over Lee Sung-woo. But then again...
But not twice.
Well, yeah.
Not as many times as he was. It just an absolute liability on the ball. Again, off the ball runs, one of the best on the team. Certainly one of the best in K-League, but just so indecisive and so poor on the ball, and just stalled that attack, stalled that midfield.
He needs coaching.
Ground everything to a halt. Yeah, he's still young.
He's still young enough, and he needs coaching. And now, obviously, Incheon have that new manager, Jordan Anderson. Hopefully, they can get him on the training pitch and just teach him when to release the ball, when to keep hold of it, because
how to trap the ball.
But that might be a start. Yeah. But yeah, let's not bash these players too much. Let's
move on.
Keep the negatives down to a minimum.
Which, kind of plays into... we were going to transition into how this affects K-League, and I'm not exactly happy that the player I've been bashing the most is one of the K-League players. But before we get into that, we've talked about it a lot, and I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't bring it up. We actually have a piece up on the site right now that our Jeju columnist Branko wrote about Shin Tae-yong, and is it time to let him go? We've put everybody else under the microscope. I feel like he's got to go there as well. There were eggs thrown at the team at the airport yesterday, which, to touch on that, stop it. What is wrong with you? I mean,
I think it is very much the minority that they've been rightly derided online.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's keep negatives down to the minute. These are just a small group of idiots, but idiots they are. And move on. It's all right rearing your head every 4 years to cheer Korea on at a tournament, but you're the reason why Korea's in this mess.
Well, speaking of whom, and speaking of Shin Tae-yong, he said before the World Cup that there are too many armchair managers who come out of the woodwork every 4 years.
Oh yeah,
he said the same things. It's quite ironic that quite probably, the people that were, having a good pop at Jang Hyun-soo and throwing the eggs at them in the airport are probably those kind of people.
Yeah. They don't go to. You look at the K-League attendances; they're clearly not turning up in the stadiums there, but they look at the TV every 4 years and go, "Oh, why hasn't my team improved?" Well,
but that's a whole other show entirely.
Shin
Tae-yong, let's not give these idiots the attention they
crave. If you're not happy about the performance, good on you. Neither am I. But I'm not throwing eggs at the team at the airport.
Why would you go all the way to the airport to throw eggs?
There is also that.
That
is a long trip.
Let me just say this, right? Somebody has bought eggs from a supermarket and taken the AREX, the airport railroad train, all the way to Incheon to throw an egg.
To be fair,
if you're doing that,
there were probably some eggs at the CU at the airport.
But who's buying eggs at the CU though? I don't know. Maybe they were, but where can you cook eggs in an airport?
Yeah, it was restaurant workers or ups. Anyway,
Shin Tae-yong.
I think it's a transition for two reasons, because don't be an idiot, but also that frustration is still there, and I think it's rightly still there, because I said this immediately after the Germany game, like, great result, a boost that the team needs, but it shouldn't gloss over systemic issues that need to be addressed. And again, that's a whole other show, but I think one of the areas that can start is, do we look at Shin Tae-yong? Do we look at the performances that his team has put in? And do we... Well, before we get on into if we move on, how would you rate Shin Tae-yong's World Cup?
Improved gradually. I think he got it terribly wrong with the warm-ups. His attitude to them. I think it got to him a lot more than it should have. These regular questions from the press every day. he tried to be clever, and he should have just played a straight bat and just said, just given straight answers. Instead, he was always saying the word trick.
Too candid, wasn't he? He was too candid.
He wanted to appear clever, smarter than he was, and he should have just kept it simple. And nobody had any idea which teams we were going to get because he never actually played them in matches. He always, I'm actually only testing this part of the team today, but I'm not telling you which part it is. But I'm only testing one part of the team.
Right.
Which ends up affecting the team.
It ends up
we've talked about when they don't know what to do.
He got it very wrong. He's not a bad manager, but he managed it badly. Is the way I'd say it. And I think he got the Mexico game right. I think actually the tactics for that were right. I think Germany he got it right. I know you were saying Mun Son Min. He got a couple of positions wrong.
Tactically, but lineup that he put out was shocking.
But what he did against Germany,
that's what we should also remember. Most of those players out there did actually work in that system, and he's a good club manager. But we should also not overlook the fact that he's had disappointing under-20 World Cups, and he didn't do well with them in the Olympics as well. So he improved, but still not good enough.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you make there, because club management is different, because obviously you're on the training field every day with these players. When you don't have that much time, and especially because your better players are abroad, do you have enough time to really find the system? And he was still searching for something or a system in the warm-up games. And even that, the last one, it was behind closed doors. Sure. We don't know what happened. But the one before that,
we know they lost.
We know they
didn't score a goal.
Yeah, well, we did, but it was the wrong end. But to me, those last few games should be refining what is going to happen in the first couple of games of the World Cup.
Yeah,
he clearly just isn't not clearly, but he's perhaps not suited to international management. He needs time to be able to assess players on a day-to-day basis before. Like you need a pre-season to sort of build a system that fits the players that you have. He was doing it the opposite way around in some aspects. So.
Yeah, can I just add on to that as well? No, definitely not. Well, I just wanted to say just quickly that he has, considering he's not been in the job a year, the number of friendlies he's had is being ridiculous. So I mean, ridiculous in the sense that he hadn't sorted it. He had the EFF East Asian Cup, which he won. Yep. He had the January training camp where he took mainly K-League players, a few Chinese Super League and Japanese League players, but doing that, he took a lot. He took 8 John Book players who didn't have any pre-season games, and they've all got injured. He's had extra friendlies, which the FIFA ones. He had 4 friendlies before the World Cup, which is the most of any team going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
He tried to manage it like a club.
Well, and
he can't do that at international level, I don't think.
Yeah, this leads into one of the issues that I had with the club, and to successfully tie it back to the United States again. It reminded me of the US's tournament in 2014, where too many players went out with fitness injuries. Players at the World Cup should not be going out with this many hamstring injuries. These players were exhausted in the friendlies leading up to the tournament. They were clearly exhausted in the tournament. Why are they so tired? What is the conditioning schedule for this club that you've got such key players as well? I mean, Ki Sung-young's out with a hamstring. Park Ju-ho's out with a hamstring. Kuja Chol comes out in the last game with a hamstring. Why are these well-versed veterans coming out with these conditioning injuries?
Let's look at this. Right. Yeah, let's look at the schedule. The K-League schedule has been compacted, which we knew was going to happen. Yeah. It's the same in the Chinese Super League, same in the J League. They compacted the schedule, so that's not, they couldn't do anything about that. That's what was always going to happen. So why have the January camp? Why have that?
Sure.
Because then you took the best you only took the players in the Asian League who were already going to have a tight schedule,
who already had ACL a lot,
we will take them away. We'll take them away and make them play international matches, and not train with their clubs, not be with their usual club physios, their usual fitness regimes. They go into this. And look at all the injuries we had in the lineup. It all built up, and there we go.
Flying as far as Northern Ireland as well.
He added to it, and he did. Yeah, he added to the issue with injuries.
Well, I think that if you're playing that many matches, and he didn't have a long time to get this club together, this team together. If you're getting your players used to a clear-cut system, that's one thing. But he didn't run a system. He switched everything up every single time. The players, even at the tournament, didn't know what they were doing. If they're gonna be if you're gonna take this much time from these players, especially from the domestic league where they're also playing international football at club level already, it's got to be to get them cohesion, to get them together. But the roster was always in flux, the system was always in flux, the tactics were always in flux. So it just didn't make sense, and all it did in the end was wear them out.
One thing I will end on a positive is I thought his in-game tactical adjustments against Germany were good. He started in a 4-4-2. Then, because he had Jang Hyun-soo in midfield, that became a back five. And then, because he knew that they're going to be under the cosh against Germany, so then it was a 5-4-1 or a 4-5-1 in some aspects. And then in the second half, when the game opened up a little bit more, it was a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
And that's how Korea won the game, because they were able to have Son as that man just stood on the halfway line.
Yeah.
And we had players that were able to shield the back four and midfielders in advanced positions to be able to get the ball into Son or hit on the break. So credit must be given to him because he made good adjustments in that game.
Well, and
he's not. As I said, he's not a bad manager.
Do we think he's going anywhere? Because
it will depend on who's available.
Exactly. Yeah.
For the budget that the KFA will have. Who's out there that's better?
Yeah.
And who's out there that's affordable? That would be the two factors, the two main factors, of whether he will stay or not. I wouldn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction.
Available soon.
I wouldn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction, and I'd hope the KFA just let things sort of settle down a bit and really assess it instead of just saying, right, he's got to go. Everything's too short-term with the KFA.
Yeah.
You have to look at the long-term, and I want, again, you use America, I'm going to use England. With England, with Gareth Southgate's appointment, it was a 4-8-year plan. He was brought in. This World Cup was supposed to be experience for the one after. There should be a model like that with Korea. It should be thinking about not just the next tournament, but how this generation of players, like Lee Sung-yu's generation, the players who are 20, 21, 22, they've got 2 or 3 probably 1 or 2 World Cups still to go. It needs to be forward thinking, not in the short term.
Yeah. And it's for that reason I'm going to controversially say that if he stayed, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah,
I genuinely if he stayed, if he can move on the older players, bring through the players he knows from the under-23 team. He'll have time, but if he left as well, I'd perfectly understand him going.
If he stays, I just want to see a more cohesive, clear-cut system where you can mix and match and plug and play a little bit more than you can right now, because the players just always look out of sorts. The World Cup, we saw this plenty, but it was no more evident to me than in that Bosnia and Herzegovina game where they just didn't know what to do. They did not know what to do. And I think that's part of the reason that the midfield was so slow in this as well, which we talked about. So we're a little over time.
As per usual.
Yeah, we had a question come in that Paul was going to field.
I'll just tell it you straight off the bat. So it was kind of a humorous question more than anything. So in from Luca Che. Hi, Luca. Wants to know key to Newcastle, why and will he get in the starting 11? I thought as we've got a Newcastle United expert in the
expert, was that a pun there, Matthew?
But no,
why is he going to Newcastle? I don't know, but seriously, it's a good move for him and it's a good signing for Newcastle. He's playing for a club that's going to be ambitious. I think playing for a good manager. Rafa Benitez is a good manager. What I like about Rafa Benitez with Newcastle is he keeps hassling the hierarchy for more money for transfers. He's ambitious, perhaps more so than the club have been. They've been happy to just sort of survive. He's won the Champions League. He's won league titles. He wants to make Newcastle become a top 6 club. Maybe even knock on the door of the Champions League, which is obviously, that might sound far-fetched, but that's the kind of ambition that he's got. Key is a good player, and I think he'll do well there. He'll do well there.
We've just got 2 more questions from Twitter if you want to try go
Mm-hmm.
for these. So we've got, obviously, we've got our own Scott Whitelock, but we'll get to him in a second. We also had one in from Sean Quinn, who asked, which K-League players who played at the World Cup do you envision potentially making a move to Europe?
Well, I mean, we talk about him every time we talk about the national team and K-League players. EJ Sung's he's got to make that move.
You've got to look at the
eventually,
military
right?
exemptions first. So, EJ Sung, he's military exempt. He's primed for a move.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he finishes the year with Jeonbuk, and if he does, he's got to go in the winter.
Yeah.
He needs to make this move at some point. He's won everything he can win here, and I think if he's going to continue to push himself as a player, then he needs to get in, let's face it, a stronger league and continue his evolution.
That's it. Yeah.
The transfer window opens on the 2nd of July, and this may look quite foolish by me saying this, but I think he'll still be here by the end of the season. I don't think he had the chance to show what he can do. He did against Germany, but I don't think the way that the game's panned out, he was able to really show what he can do. I think if scouts were watching, they might think, let's just have a look at him in the ACL. There's still the ACL to come, and in the latter part of the season for Jeonbuk, and then he will go eventually. He has to, but
I think
not. I think at the end of this season,
for him, and we talked about players whose stock went up. I think more importantly for EJ Sung, his stock didn't really go down so much, and he was already on a lot of radars. Like Cho Hyun-woo popped up. Obviously, nobody really knew about him before this tournament. Some did, but others did not so much. So I think for EJ Sung, if he was going to make a move, there were teams that were interested in him. He didn't bump up into that next echelon of teams, but I think if there were those that were interested in him, they're still going to be interested in him.
What I would say is, as well, Jeonbuk is twinned with Lyon in Ligue 1. So
there is a good point.
He has to go. He cannot go to. There'll be no players going to the Premier League from the K League because of the visa rules,
work permit stuff,
work permit rules. But they usually K League players have tended to go to Bundesliga, France, or the Scottish Premier League, and I could see, because Jeonbuk's got the connections already in Ligue 1, I think if he can't negotiate his own deal with a club, that Jeonbuk could say, well, we'll sort this out for you.
And that would be a good move for him.
Yeah.
Good.
And the final question we've got is Scott Whitelock, our own Scott Whitelock. Hi, Scott. What do Korea need to do in order to win the Asian Cup and restore some pride into the national team?
Well, for me, again, play a clear-cut system. Let your players know what they're doing. The talent's on this team, and this goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about tactically, formations, everything else. That these were the games that Korea lost were winnable games. Yeah. They only lost by 1 against Sweden, and that was a penalty. They lost by 1 against Mexico. Yes, that was a consolation goal, but if you don't.
But they conceded another penalty.
Right. If you don't concede that penalty, or you don't allow that open play goal, then we're looking at a draw and a win, and they're through. Right. So I think they were so close, and the talent is there. They just need to the midfield and the attack need to have the shackles taken off a little bit. I personally think they need to stop playing so defensively. The defense was sound. Okay, so I don't think we need to set up the whole team to do that. I think let the talented players shine a little bit more. That's what I think, and that's what casual fans need. They need to see these talented midfielders and attacking players with the shackles off, running at opposition, and I think the Asian games should offer that a little bit more than the opposition that they had at the World Cup.
Yeah,
I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I can't really disagree either.
Okay,
all right, so that's it for the World Cup. We were going to go into, well, you know what? Fine. Yeah, how does this affect the K League? Because we're gonna take a brief break pretty soon, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about K League coming back, because it's back tonight. We'll talk about how K2 looks. We're gonna take a break and then come back and talk about that. But before we do, how is this cup going to affect the K League?
Well, Korea is. Most leagues in the world, the league is first and the national team is almost second, or a good.
The fans,
The fans are usually the World Cup is kind of like a bonus on the end of the usual league season. Right. Whereas for Korea, it's the reverse. You need a good, strong national team to see that filter through into the stands in the K League. Will we get it? Straight away, I think we will in places like Daegu. I think people are going to want to see Cho Hyun-woo.
Next weekend.
I think we will see a small spike, but it'll start to go. It won't be a sustained attendance. Now, this is where the national team has to do well. They need to. The under 23 Asian Games coming up in August, led by Kim Hak-bom. They need to win that.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, gold medal exemptions and some may move, but they have to win that because it builds national pride. They need to follow that up with a win, almost, in the Asian Cup. They need to do well, and they should really be going for the title in the Asian Cup. That's in January.
Yeah.
They win that. We've got 3 competitions. There is some positivity in this World Cup performance as well because it ended on such a high. I think you could see it benefit the K-League from 2019. I don't think if you're expecting miracles, if you're expecting miracles next month, it's not going to happen. But
I think if clubs can look at the players that they had in the World Cup squad, the ones that played at least, because there's people like Oban Sok who didn't, and
even if they were just there,
ride
that positivity of the Germany game.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen Daegu, for example, posting on their Facebook about Choi Onu, and rightly so. But just use their performances and their passion and say, listen, if you want to see these players play every week, then this is where to find them.
I mean, there should be a commercial running on a loop right now of just splice highlights of Cho Hyun-woo in the World Cup, highlights of Cho Hyun-woo in K-League.
Yeah.
Want to see it every week?
Well, without mentioning brand, there is a particular sports drink that sponsors the K-League. I drank a bottle this morning and it has Pohang players on the side. Okay, why not put these World Cup players on there?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and I'd also. Yeah, no, you're right. I think you should be there.
But now we're into K-League stuff instead. What can Korea do in these
there is
tournaments?
one thing, just kind of linking it back to Korea, and that is for the first time, not really the first time, but because there was a lot of criticism after the last World Cup. But this one, we've seen the former pros come out as well. Throughout this, there was a few weeks ago, I think it was Lee Young-pyo who came out and he criticised that they're not just criticising the Korean team and saying how poor it is, but they're saying there is nobody there. You know, they're saying you need to support your local leagues, and I think this is it. There's so before the KFA could just continue as it was, but this time they've got their former heroes also coming out and saying this needs to change, to change, and even Shin Tae-yong, we've given him some criticisms today, but he said as well, and I didn't like his timing on it because I thought it was an excuse, but he was right. There are systemic issues in the K-League, and I think there's enough people calling it out now, and we're not talking about Stileka who's calling it out and nobody's paying attention. There are Korean professionals, Korean heroes, former pros that are calling this out. And I think this could lead to a positive impact for the K-League.
Well, I do recall seeing an interview or some quotes from that was a conversation between Ki and Son, and they said that they regularly talk about the K-League and the state that it's in, and obviously because they are the top players in their Korean team, obviously they won't see the K-League as a step forward in their career, but at least they are looking at it and thinking, this is going to change. Yeah. And they are concerned about it, and rightly so, because to be able to have a successful national team, you need to be able to support your local team. And now it's obviously down to the clubs in a way, but also down to the K-League as an organisation to sort of go with the marketing. And it's raising awareness, because I don't think many people will know where these players play.
Yeah, and I think to get it back to the Asian Games, hopefully that young squad that's going there, the majority of them are going to have to come from K-League.
Oh, they will.
That's where a lot of the players are right now, and hopefully we can get some of the young players from places like Seoul. You know, hopefully we can get Choi Young having a good tournament, and I think that's what's going to reinvigorate the fan base. Getting a winning that tournament, and hopefully having, much like this tournament, having at least one K-League star at the center of it, the way Cho Hyun-woo was for the World Cup. If we can get Cho Young-wook to go out and have a big tournament, that'd just be good.
That'd be fantastic.
That'd be good.
And even go to the Asian Cup as well. There's going to be no Son Heung-min possibly at the Asian Cup because Tottenham are agreeing to let him do the Asian Games. Right. So it's like kind of there is a
don't really need both. Yeah.
So
but doesn't he?
Yeah. So But anyway,
hopefully he doesn't.
So what I'm
because
saying is
hopefully
there's
they
going to
win
be
the games.
opportunities. There's going to be opportunities in the future, in the near future, for this to work.
Right. Well,
we've gone over time, haven't we?
We've gone
just
How far over are we, by the way?
I'm not going to say it's double what we were shooting for, but I'm not going to not say that. We are going to take a very brief break right now, get some water in, and
Wardrobe change.
A slight wardrobe change, because we're going to switch over because K-League is back.
Yeah.
It's back tonight. Clearly none of us are excited about that at all. So we're going to come back. We're going to run down all of the K2 teams. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the match coming up tonight. But that's a wrap for us on the World Cup.
Yeah,
so,
unfortunately it is, yeah.
Until of course, it's coming home, I'm hearing. Is this
it is coming home. After the Belgium game, it's taken a slight detour, but it's still coming home.
So we will be out and about watching more of the World Cup, but this is it for our official coverage of Korea, which didn't expect it to go much longer, but also didn't expect it to have such a positive to end on after those first couple of games.
Yeah.
So it could have been much worse, but hopefully we can talk about the Asian Games for a little bit longer, and hopefully we can talk about the Asian Cup for a little bit longer. But that's it for the World Cup from this end of things. So we'll be back in 10 minutes, 15. We'll say 3:30. We'll say we'll be back in 20 minutes.
And that's my cue to
unawkwardly turn off the camera.
I'll be the same.
See you soon.